One of the most fascinating things that unfolded during the landmark 2013 Supreme Court case that challenged the election of Uhuru Kenyatta as president was the production of so many different books, electoral rolls. It seemed that every time the IEBC was cornered in terms of figures, they produced a new book. Yeah. In this recording, I want us to dwell a bit deeper into the origin of these books, because these books stink. Okay, let us just look. You'll find out what I mean by that in a few minutes. Yeah. When Kenya returned to multi-party democracy in 1992, and we had the very first competitive presidential elections in the history of Kenya, the ECK, that time it was called the Electoral Commission of Kenya, did a national registration drive. Now from this drive they produced what was called a black books, which was the list of registered voters. Okay. Now these black books were photocopied. These black books were photocopied, and this is what polling stations were using countrywide for the elections. Of course, that time everything was manual. In 1997, the registers were computerized. However, these controversial black books were kept as a backup. In 2002, actually the most free and fair elections we've ever had, presidential-wise, the use of those black books was forbidden, so they were not used. Now in 2007, something very interesting happened. You remember the previous election, the black book was not used as a backup, But in 2007, shortly before the elections, they were sneaked back in and used as a backup. You remember how controversial those elections were. Now in 2013, you remember the computer system, the biometric system, sensationally and controversially failed. And so we went back to the manual system. And of course, the black book was still in use, the so-called black books. Now the black books, what was used during the controversial Supreme Court case, and there was no legal basis to discount them or to deny them in the evidence. Now this is how come we have over 1 million, actually towards the end of last year it was estimated that the register had over 1.2 million dead people in it. And wonders, every election, these dead people rise momentarily from the dead and they vote and then go back to being dead. Now audit firm KPMG did an audit recently of the voter register, and their figure came to 1,037,260 dead voters still in the voters roll. Okay. Now of course I have a very good idea why the figure fell short of that 1.2. There are a lot of other games going on, but that's a story for another day, maybe another recording. Okay, let's just stick to what we're saying here. Let us briefly go back to 1992. The reason why these dead voters were introduced in 1992 is very obvious. Should be obvious, because what happened is that those were the first elections, presidential elections. Incumbent at that time, President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, was defending the presidency. And he was very desperate at that time, because what had happened is the opposition had rallied against him, and foreign powers were very much against him. They wanted him out of power, and something had to be done to ensure that he won those elections. Now it's very important also to realize something else. It is one thing to have an election and rig it, and also it is a completely different subject to be able to defend your rigging in a court of law. What has been done in Kenya has always been very neat, as was proved by the 2013 Supreme Court case, in that those who specialize in doing these things normally cover their tracks very well. They have expert legal advice, so that in case anything goes wrong, in case actually the thing comes before a court, the matter comes before a court, it would be impossible to prove rigging, and even if you're able to prove rigging, it would be impossible to get conclusive evidence of exactly how it was done, because the most the strongest evidence in such a case would be numbers. Now, when you tally the numbers, you look at the register, the numbers are there, yeah. And if the numbers do not add up, the magic black book is produced with the dead voters, and voila, you have the numbers, yeah. That's really what it is. And as I've said in past recordings, this is normally done, and I'm talking about the presidential elections. This is normally done by people who would like to maintain control, yeah, control over the future of the country, control over the state of security of the country. And normally the argument, as I've said in past recordings, is that they have more information than you and me, and therefore they need control, yeah. So even after you've voted, still somebody else is going to control the results. That's really what it is. Now, I'm aware many Kenyans will get very angry listening to me saying this. I know they'll get even angrier because I'm saying it without any emotion. Yeah, but that is the way things are. And I like to keep my emotion out of it, because if I start introducing my emotion, I'll probably not be, I'm sure you'll not be able to hear what I'm saying. Yeah, because emotion, and you see also emotion affects judgment. I will not be able to present this thing as clearly as I am right now. So the big question now is, will this 1 million plus dead voters be removed from the voters' roll before August 8th? Barely, the election are coming very fast on us, yeah? At the time I'm making this recording, it's about 55 days away, yeah? So will those names be removed on time from that register? Or will we get what has happened in the past, whereby in the rush, the last minute details, last minute excitement, last minute this and that, things are shoved aside, small decisions are made, and it is announced and nobody notices because everybody is focused on the main race, on the main thing, yeah? Very effective tactic, by the way. And as I've said earlier in this recording, that is exactly what happened in 2007, the controversial 2007 elections, where the black book was introduced at the very last minute, and not many people noticed, but it was significant. The cry from Kenyans is a free and fair election. Yeah, Kenyans deserve a free and fair election, whichever side wins. Yeah, it would be very naive and stupid for somebody to think that since the so-called people rigging are on the side of your particular candidate, it is okay. Because you know why it is naive and stupid? Because tomorrow, you never know. You could be on the other side, and if you keep the same people who are interfering and fiddling with the elections, you are the one now who's going to be on the receiving end. So this concerns all of us, whichever side of the political divide you fall in. Free and fair elections are a must. Dead people should not vote. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Some people say, oh, these dead people are from Nyanza, for instance, so even if they rose from the dead, we know how they would vote. We know, because Kenya is tribal politics. So 500,000 dead people in Nyanza, definitely all of them would vote for NASA. No, it doesn't matter. There's nothing, absolutely nothing like that. Okay? So, dead people should not vote. And the extremely fascinating thing about this is that, in the progressive voter registration, we've always been told, whenever they are renewing the voters' roll, we've always been told if, even if you had registered before, come and register again, otherwise you'll not be able to vote, yeah? But the dead voters have a lot of power because they've consistently remained in the voters' roll, yeah? They've consistently turned up to renew their registration as voters. Wow, that's Kenya for you. Now, there's some short-sighted people would argue that in the current voters' roll, which has a total of 19.4 million registered voters, those are the people, as we go into these elections, only 1 million or 1.2 million is insignificant. Nothing like that. It should be very obvious to anybody that an extra million vote, not even a million, having 500 votes in your hands that you can play around with, can change the election results anytime, any day. Yeah, can change the election results significantly. Yeah, especially with the 50+1 rule, you can place the votes. Let's say they're only 500,000. You can place them somewhere, and it just changes the whole arithmetic so that the winner still doesn't have the 50+1. Yeah, you understand what I mean? Anyway. This is Chris Kumekucha. Until next time.